Hello, full transparency, I was given a review copy for this game. Just thought you should know, is all. This video will have minor spoilers for things like enemies and early bosses for this game. Just a heads up, you should play it. It's very good. I like a lot of people who make junk on YouTube. One of those people is Leather Ice Cream. What kind of stuff does he make? Pretty much whatever he wants. To put this guy in a box is impossible. One day he's making a video about an offshoot of stick figures on crack. Another day he's making a whole ass animation of his childhood OCs fucking around and being generally hilarious.
Wow, I just got back from my walk on the Alps. Jolie, here's your gift.
And another day he's gonna be talking about GTA myth videos where someone goes, keep this in mind, we will come back to it. He also makes video games, and he is far from wet behind the ears when it comes to the whole game design thing. I am not going to be exhaustive about it, but he started with a lot of small games and expanded from there. Which is funny because for a while he always had this one dev project that tormented him, one that had to be put in the oven several times, and it somehow turned this into this. Which still blows my mind. This is a game I want to talk about, for the record. Stay tuned for that, eventually. He was also a level and enemy designer for a very good Isaac mod, and a whole ass update to the base game based on that mod. Yeah, dude worked on Repentance. I always forget about that. Dude has a style of thinking I like, and it tends to lead to really fun challenges. Deep in his YouTube backlog, you will find something that kinda befuddled me at first. It's an accidental upload with a spooky ass man and some really nice music. This is from a game that he wanted to make. It was called Slavia. It minorly intrigued me. We knew basically nothing about the game until it was canned for being generally slow and sluggish. There are some really cool ideas in there that we saw in the brief send-off stream though. I love the enemy that hooks you on a fishing line when you pick up certain power-ups. I loved Trash Boy. I loved these zombies that decide to go when they get hurt. However, it was obvious this game wasn't it. It did, however, have an incredible soundtrack made by a Mr. Harvey Rothman. This canned project introduced me to the man's music, and I have been obsessed ever since. Like, Clustertopia is a song that floored me when I first heard it, and I've remained floored for years afterward. Slavia is a fun idea, it's just not executed very well yet. He did another swing at this game with a very crisp-looking prototype made with the same coding wizard that did Cheta Chetovic. I would have loved to play this, but I totally get why he felt this wasn't him, you know? Alright, I know I'm being unnecessarily thorough here, but this is all to say this game has had a wild-ass trajectory. Because what we ended up with was just totally apeshit bonkers in comparison, and I'm so happy that it is. Myths Are 100% True is a very charming game. I'm going to be going out of my comfort zone talking about it here because this game is relatively hot off the presses by the time I'm writing this. I'm not used to talking about new things, I'm used to talking about old dingy ass stuff. But hey, I'm gonna do my very best because I think this game does some really neat stuff and it's worth talking about. I think the first thing I want to get into is this game's whole vibe. It's kinda hard to pin down because it's so specific. Like, the concept of the game is easy for me to grasp. It's a play on GTA myth videos and internet mystery culture. The type of shit I mentioned where they just go, but as much as I get that, I'm sitting here writing this script like, how the fuck do I explain that to anyone else? That is such an off-the-wall idea based on heaps of specific experiences and fixations. But I think that's exactly why the game works. I know what a cane killer is, and I can get a type of enjoyment out of knowing that that is a reference to something very specific. But also, at the same time, there's like a Flatwoods monster enemy that makes a bug that chases you, and when you photograph it, it does this? And like, that death animation specifically is obviously a reference to something, but I don't know what on God's green earth it could possibly be. And it leaves me in a feedback loop of trying to guess it for myself. It feels borderline esoteric when the game does stuff like this.
Negative 30 degrees!
And I think that's the beauty of it. This game will reference things, but not things that people readily know about, and it makes me feel like I'm going completely nuts. In that way, it shares DNA with a previous game of Leathers, At Least There's Chedovic. That game is a lot more overt with its reference stuff. Like, Myths is gonna be cheeky about what it shows you. Cheddar will come in like, hey, World 2 is comprised entirely of references to old Java games you would play on your phone. One of the basic enemies is that terrible Hobson mixtape. This enemy is from Bubble Bobble Nostalgia, and that is a real game, and we aren't fucking with you, actually. It's so pervasive in the game itself and the soundtrack that neither can be sold for currency, which is both really funny and really fucked up. Fuck copyright law. I want to pay money for this game. Both games are about super specific references and experiences, and honestly, half the fun is seeing something in them and wondering what it could possibly have been. I know what these triangle guys reference, and I can enjoy the fact that I do and feel genuinely surprised that more than a handful of people know about boppin', but I can look at something as simple as the name of a nightclub and feel it right on the tip of my tongue and have nothing. Leather even made a series of videos that showed the sheer volume of references he's made to his obscure knowledge just in the demo alone. It goes deep. The amount of grass in the starting area, the mention of a dot in the opening cutscene, the placement of two enemies, the time of day that a graffiti can show up in a level based on your system's internal clock. Everything present is in some way influenced. Nothing feels like it's there for no reason. It works on many levels too because it dodges the problem a lot of reference humor usually lands on. If you don't get what something is referencing, it's not gonna be a joke that didn't land, it's gonna be funny or interesting in a totally different way because it's completely fucking inscrutable. I had a moment of clarity while playing this game and thinking about this, where I saw a reference to the GTA ghost car myth, which was even careening down a hill in reference to how the myth started. I proceeded to think to myself, ah, well, that's just the ghost car from San Andreas Myth videos. That's way too obvious. Everyone's gonna know what that is. And then I thought about it a bit more, and I realized how insane that is for me to assume. The GTA ghost car is something that only people who are into myth hunting videos already are gonna know. And this is one of the obvious references in this game. I think now is a good time to talk about how the game looks, and it looks kinda pretty to me, honestly. It's definitely harkening back to Flash games and thick outline, late aughts type internet culture, but it kinda does its own thing with it. I look back at something like Spears and Spades, which is a very old game of his, and think it looks okay. It's a bit lacking though, right? It moves too stiff. A bit too stuck in trying to recreate that old aesthetic. Myths over here is so fucking fresh in comparison. Everything it feels animated in such a way to where the appeal is just off the charts. I'm obsessed with stuff as simple as how an enemy moves. Like, look at this goober throwing dynamite. What a goofball. There are great game design choices folded into it too, like how all the myths have these really big, crazy white eyes. Meaning in the heat of a camera battle, you are gonna be able to understand what is set dressing and what is your actual target. This extends to a really cute extra thing where sometimes you see two round eyes just in the background of a level, and you can take a picture and it counts as an enemy even though it's just garbage. Halev here just had his pareidolia kick in so hard he got money for it, and that is clever and adorable. Can I just say that? Halev is adorable. He is a force of nature that has the personality of an immovable object. He isn't emotionless, just really blunt and accepting of the world around him being crazy. I love the way the writing is handled too. Like, this is a world where things are generally pretty okay, but insane shit happens constantly. There can be a citywide threat to peace as we know it, and everyone is standing outside like, oh, well that's a problem, huh? And, like, the visuals lend themselves to the fun level design ideas too. This is the only video game where I've had to bounce on top of a moving parade while dodging shoes that a nearby lad keeps launching off his feet while trying to kick a ball. The world just feels really friendly despite being constantly in danger. Like, all of the buildings are these brutalist hunks of concrete, but they just feel homey to me. They feel nice. It's such a breath of fresh air. When things go wrong, it's in a way a cartoon handles it. It's not a big deal. And when things go actually wrong, it's because someone did something really exceptionally messed up. This extends to the Almanac of Myths, which, Oh, I always love when video games do this. I remember buying Prima guides for games I didn't own just to read about the enemies that exist within them. This game doesn't disappoint. I think I like the Almanac and Cheta a bit more due to its tone of grandiosity clashing with its subject matter, but Hlev's observations and investigation is still extremely charming. Like, dude has a perception of the world that is so unique. He makes me so happy. In fact, all the NPCs and characters make me happy. They're all just people out about town and or fellow photoslavs on a job, and they are just such vibes. They're like these little chess pawn folks running around making TV beds and painting billboards. It makes these very linear levels feel so lived in. Speaking of the billboards, thank you, Leather, for letting me put dumb shit from my hard drive into your video game. I can put a stretched out picture of the Prodigy box art in your game and you can't do anything to stop me. I love that you can take pictures of NPCs and they'll have varying reactions, from annoyance to posing for it, to assimilation, to a taste of my own medicine, to friggin' red mist looking ass. It's so awesome. Like, it's not a scrubbed down world without any edges, it's just a friendlier one. Funnily enough, there's like a strip club in one of the levels, and you would wonder, how the hell did they handle that with an aesthetic like this? And oh, it's so funny, man. Listen, on one hand, this is a really funny joke. I love these silly geometric dancers so much. On the other hand, I don't think this would stop me. I have a crush on a set of vectors with a robot voice. This is simply the next frontier. Backing up the visuals is the sound design and music being very in sync with the chaotic hominess vibe. Like, every enemy has its own distinct sound they play that lets you know shit's about to go down, and it's really well considered.
Whoppa! Ow!
On top of that, the world is just full of these punchy-ass noises. Like, my favorite is that aforementioned parade just playing tiny snippets of crowd noise when you land on it. The sudden cutoff just obliterated me the first time that I heard it. It's so funny. The music itself is done by Mudeth, who has been a frequent collaborator with Leather and his pals. I think he was a fantastic choice for this game. Like, listen, Harvey is one of my favorite musicians ever, and I think that if he were to provide the music for this game, he would have done a great job. But Mudith understood the assignment so well that I couldn't imagine this game with anyone else's sound behind it. There are so many influences at play here, but the biggest is, again, the aughts. I could pick up a lot of little nuggets of tangential influence in there from that time frame, like Flash games, old YouTube tutorial videos, the X-Files theme, new metal, old YouTube remixes with completely inscrutable voice samples, trip-hop style Kid Koala influenced stuff, RDJ2 Pandora Radio Cores type producer projects, and to make it even more of its own thing, these songs have the funkiest Balkan horns possible, and even at times very cute little callbacks to the old Slavia soundtrack. No matter what it is doing, the soundtrack is just irreversibly 2000s in a way that makes me realize I do in fact have things to be nostalgic for. Uh-oh, so what about the gameplay itself? I've gone on and on about the aesthetics and humor and music, but if this is going to stand on its own, it's gotta play well, not just be fun to witness. So despite what the game would have you think by its themes of photography and myth hunting, Myths R is genuinely one of the most frantic and kinetic games I've played in a good while. Your way of getting rid of enemies is primarily this big camera flash. It's nice and hefty and holds a good amount of space on the screen. The game goes super fast, so having such a big, forgiving hitbox to smack people with is pretty smart. You are going to be dashing around a lot, and while you can do it raw for just pure bursty distance, you can also do this crazy shit. This, honestly speaking, is a mechanic I have always wanted to see in a two-dimensional game. I am horrible at tripping in TF2, but any video game that lets me just cram my face against the slope and fly makes me very excited. Myths is also very good at knowing when you're trying to do a simple ramp launch and when you're trying to just totally ride the lightning and just
watch me swing right in!
I was kind of worried it wouldn't be as apparent as I would have wanted, but no, it's ubiquitous. Even the smallest bumps in the terrain give you lift. I don't know what kind of wizardry the programmer, Claygod, performed on Game Maker to make this so tight and instinctual, but he did a damn good job. It leads to moments where I see a tiny ramp and my brain just blows up with notifications. With this in mind, this could have become a game where the combat kind of takes a backseat because you could just fly through levels, and while you can do that if you want, I didn't. Because when the game upgraded me very quickly with the dash cam, I fell deeply in love. That's right, baby, the traversal ability is also an attack. So, dashing through enemies takes pictures of them. It's fine for a group of folks you just want to throw yourself through, but it doesn't do a lot of damage on its own. Certain enemies are not going to go down in one hit, so you could do a little finicky 1-2 punch to get rid of them, or you could do something called a photobomb, where you take a picture right as you bump into the enemy with a dash cam, causing you to do both instances of damage at the exact same time. Okay, but later on you get even beefier enemies. They won't go down from a measly photobomb. What do I do about that? Well, the camera has this mechanic where taking a group picture can do more damage to any enemies involved. The more entities and projectiles in your little flash zone, the more it's gonna give you cash and smack people. Thing is, this has a limit. So why not go as hard as you possibly can and do a group photo bomb that does dash cam damage on top of the group photo damage, smacking a beefy enemy with several instances of burst at the same time. God, group photos and photo bombs give me such life. There is nothing like seeing a new enemy and not only thinking about how to deal with it, but how to profit and thrive off of it. Everything in this game considers these ideas and does plenty with them. Enemies pose a question, like, how do I use the projectile that this thing makes to get more cash off of it in group photos? How do I take pictures of this ghost train in a way that deals with more of them at the same time? How do I do enough damage in a photo to delete these fucking shark fins? Okay, I should talk about the difficulty. This game isn't that hard. It's challenging, and things are gonna be really chaotic really fast, but the game is good at giving you checkpoints that are the middle ground between a setback and not a big deal at all. Dying isn't good, but it's not the end of the world. Then again, I haven't tried to 100% each level yet, so maybe this game is a rage game in disguise, who knows. I mean, hell, apparently there's shit in this game that I have no clue about even after beating it. Something about a funny fruit, I don't know. The bosses are probably the biggest roadblocks you'll die to repeatedly, and even then it never felt like bullshit to me. Like, okay, this is going to be exactly 1% more spoilers than the rest of the video has been, but I really fucking adore the super myths. The way boss battles are handled in this game are so clever it hurts. See, the camera is a super easy ability to spam, so why would a boss pose a threat? Well, they can't be hurt by a single camera flash. It just won't happen. There needs to be more than one instance of damage on a boss for it to do anything to it. This is already super unique. It means that you have to find a way to bunch a ton of myths in one spot and just slam that health bar. Every contingency is thought of too. Without some protections, you could probably photobomb a boss to death if you wanted. So instead of letting you just remove any danger from an encounter, every super myth has this glowing aura where they can't take damage from a dash cam at all. It goes away at times, so you can do that, but not all the time, and you should save it for when you have no options or can do major damage. Doing big damage in these boss fights is also really fun because if you do just too much shit at once, the boss gets really freaked out for a few seconds. This doesn't give you anything but space to breathe, but god, it's satisfying to pull it off. The bosses do some really unique stuff on their own too, like the first and second phase of a boss tend to play on each other, and the final phase tends to do something totally different. I will say this does lead to the final phase of each boss being usually more cool than it is challenging, at least compared to the other phases in said fights, but hey, what matters is if it's fun, and it's fun. I think the best example of this would be World 2's boss, which, on top of being voiced by a senior Pello, is just a really fun and well thought out fight. He spends his first phase just making more and more enemies and projectiles, and you probably think to yourself, oh, these are easy-ish to dodge. I can just jump over them and they'll hit the back wall. Then the second phase happens and, oh dear god.
Help! Help! Help me! Help!
This blew my brain open when I saw it. The boss doing this crazy-ass wraparound with both himself and his projectiles creates so much more chaos in an enclosed space. And on top of that, you can wrap around too. This is a mechanic in a lot of levels, and is usually used to make for some really fun platforming. Like, bottomless pits don't really exist in this game. They just kind of spit you out at the opposite end, and it creates this super fun design space. This is the first time this is used in a boss fight, and it is used in the perfect way. The bosses are also just really fun to watch. Like, there's such a motley crew of weirdos that I want to see more of. These suckers are begging for a series or something. Okay, well, what are things that I don't like about the game? Well, I wish money was used for more things. I didn't really use the pocket power-ups that much. I just systematically bought 3 of each for some reason because I'm very autistic. The power-ups themselves are cool when they show up in their respective levels, but I just never found a reason to take them out of their designed environments. Though I will say these 2 guys are definitely an outlier. I'm sure they can be used for some wacky hidden shit. I liked buying the little emotes and stuff, but for a resource that is talked about quite a bit and tied to one of the main mysterious characters of the story, money is not really capitalized upon, ironically enough. Even just things like having to pay a little bit to go to the next chapter would have been enough to make money feel a little more important. The collectibles are fine. The pins are a fun thing to collect as they lead to something that is probably going to be pretty neat eventually. Plus, the magnifying glass is a fun score multi collectible that they could just put in wacky places, but I feel like there could have been more to go for than high scores, you know? These are minor gripes, though. Like, there isn't much I can say that is negative about this game without going into nitpicks. It's just good at using its toolkit. It reaches its own potential all the goddamn time. As an overall package, Myths Are 100% True feels so incredibly fresh. I've been fixated on this game since the first trailer, and it did not disappoint. The game won't take you long to beat, at least in modern gamer minutes, but in that time they juice every last idea they can out of this whole shebang, and it really tickles my fancy. It is unmistakably itself. And that is one of my favorite things that a video game can be. I hope you enjoyed me yap about this video game. It's good, and you should play it. This lamppost in the desert is a reference to LSD Dream Emulator. See you next time!